All right, in this next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a circular logo using Type on a Path, the Ellipse Tool, and a Pathfinder, and some guides. And it looks just like this. Let's go check it out. Here we go. All right, so we're gonna create a circular logo in here. And the purpose of this is really to show you how to kind of set it up and to think about constructing a circular logo and some of the tools that you should keep in mind when you're doing this. The first thing is to create a document. I just have a really large document here. It really doesn't matter what size. The next thing I want to do is go to the View menu, and I want to go down to Rulers, and I want to show my rulers. Now what this is going to allow me to do is drag some guides out on the screen. And because we're making a circular logo, what I want to ensure is that I have a consistent center point for all the things that are going to become part of this logo. To create guides, once the ruler is on, take your black arrow, go up to the top ruler, and click and drag a guide down to somewhere in the middle of the page. It really doesn't matter where, it just depends on where you want to work. And then do the same thing on the left hand side. So I'm going over to the left, click and drag, and now I have a vertical guide as well as a horizontal guide. And so that's going to give me a consistent center point because I'm going to create a number of rings in here, and I want to make a circle that's going to crop some things out. So having this consistent center is going to help me very much. The next thing I'm going to do is create a circle which is going to form the foundation of the text. And so what I want to do is take the Ellipse tool, and I'm going to hold the Alt or Option key down. And what that's going to allow me to do is create this circle from the center as opposed to what would be ostensibly the corner. And I'm going to go right to my where my vertical and horizontal guides meet. I'm going to hold my Alt key down, and I'm going to click on the screen. And clicking on the screen allows me to type in the dimensions that I want my circle to be. Now, I'm going to be typing in some measurements that work for me. Your measurements may be different depending on what you're making. So I'm going to type in 100 and 100. And I'm going to click on OK. All right, so now I have a circle, zoomed in a little bit closer. What I want to do with this is I want to make two text paths. I want to make a kind of an upper text path that starts around here, whoops, and goes to here. And then I want to have a separate text path down here that's going to have some text about when my company was established. So what I need to do is I want to create a guide so I can have the same spot horizontally at the bottom of this circle. Now, when I've created my guides, they're automatically locked. And what I want to do is I want to temporarily unlock them. To do that, I go to the View menu, View menu, Guides, and Unlock Guides. And what this allows me to do is select this horizontal guide, and now I can make a copy of this at a very specific point or place below this line. So I'm going to select the guide. I'm going to double-click the black arrow. And for my horizontal position, I'm going to put 0 because I don't need it to move horizontally. But vertically, I want it to move 35 points. And that's going to copy it down. A positive number will copy things down for some unknown reason. What I also want to do is instead of clicking on OK, I want to click on Copy. So now I have two horizontal guides in here. Now I can go back to the View menu, to Guides, and lock the guides. All right, so they won't move and they won't be part of my selection or anything like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this circle and I'm going to cut it here and I'm going to cut it here. And to do that, I'm going to use my scissors tool. If you can't find it, the keyboard shortcut is C. And I'm going to cut it right here where it says intersect. And I'm going to cut it over here where it also says intersect. And I want to make sure that it says intersect. That way I can ensure that it's going to match right with that guide. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is create a text path with my type tool by clicking on this upper path. I'm going to take the type tool, I'm going to click over here, kind of where it says path, and now it's going to place some text on here. And since I don't have a name of a company right now, I'm just going to type in, "This is the name of my brand." Wow, that's so exciting. All right, let's change up the font and some of the other type settings. So I'm going to go to the window menu, down to type, and click on character. I'm going to use the font Proxima Nova, which is a font that you can find in fonts.adobe.com. I'm going to use Proxima Nova condensed medium, I think. Let me highlight that, make sure I got it. I did not. Proxima Nova. And like I said, condensed medium. I'm going to change the size to about 9 points. I want to change the tracking to something pretty big, so I'm going to do like 500. And I also want to change the paragraph settings to, instead of left aligned, I want it to justify all the lines. And so what that's going to do is it's going to spread the type from this beginning point, which is represented by this line, to this end point, which is represented by this line. Now I want this to fill out the entirety of that path. So what I'm going to do is, with my white arrow, I'm going to click on this line and drag it all the way to the end, and do the same thing with this one, just to make sure that it's filling that entire space. All right, so that looks good, but what I want to do is I also want to center this text along this path. Right now the baseline of the text is sitting on this path. I want it to be centered. So I'm going to go to, with this selected, I'm going to go to the type menu, type on a path options, and I want to align this to the center. And if I click on preview, you're going to see what happens. Now the type is aligned to the vertical center. The vertical center of the type, I should say, is aligned to the path. And I'm going to click on OK. All right, so that's that part. Next thing is I want to set some type on this bottom path. I'm going to take my type tool. I'm going to click over here on the right-hand side of this path right now, because that's kind of where it thinks it wants to set it. And I'm going to type in EST established, I don't know, 1999. All right, so a couple things. This type right now is upside down, so we would need to get that to the right orientation. And I also want to change the font. I don't want it to be the same font that I used. So let's get this to the right orientation first, and then we'll change the font. So with this selected, I'm going to go back to the type menu, back to type on a path, and type on a path options. I want to flip it, turn my preview on so you can see it, and again, align it to the center of the type, and click on OK. All right, so let's do some typesetting to this. I'm going to highlight all this type in here. I'm going to change the font to, what's this one called? Fave Condensed 1 Pro. You can also find this in fonts.adobe.com. I don't want this to align to justify all lines. I just want it to be center justified. So it kind of sits more in the center, gives it a little bit of space. And let's see, maybe I'll make it 8 points, something like that. All right, so now I have this really great looking arrangement of type. Now let's add some other components to it. All right, so what I want to do is I want to create the outer ring that's going to go around this type. And what I want to do is take my Ellipse Tool. I want to make sure that my stroke is black and my fill is none. I'm going to hold my Alt or Option key down and click on where these two guides meet in the middle, which is the center of my circle. And I'm going to put in the dimensions 115 and 115, and I'm going to click on OK. And from here, I want to change the stroke value to 2 points. All right, so you can do that in your stroke panel, or if your properties panel is up, you can do that as well. Now for the inner ring, I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to hold my Alt or Option key down. I click on the center of this, and I want the dimensions to be 85 and 85. Click on OK. Now I have an inner ring, but I want that to be 1 point, so I'm going to change that to 1 point. All right, the next thing that I want to do is I want to put a graphic on the inside, and I want to trim it to the width to the shape of a circle. Now what I've done is I've gone to the Noun Project, which is a really wonderful website that has all sorts of icons, and I found an icon of a tree. Now depending on what you're working on, you might have customized something, you might have some other graphic that you want to work with. I'm just using a tree as an example because it's generic, and I think this is going to work really well for my tutorial. So I'm going to take this tree and I'm going to copy it, right? And so I downloaded just a note on the Noun Project. I downloaded this as an SVG file, scaled vector graphic file, and which I can open up in Illustrator. I copy it. I'm going to go back here to this document and I'm going to paste it in here. And I want to position it so it fits in the center. And I want to make it just a touch bigger so it spills kind of outside of this circle. Now the goal here with the Pathfinder is I'm going to trim off the bottom of this circle, or the bottom of this tree with a circle. So I'm going to take the Ellipse Tool. I'm going to hold my Alt or Option key down. Again, I'm going to click in the center of this circle, and I'm going to make this, say, 82 by 82, and click on OK. All right, so now you can see that this is the shape of the circle, and it's going to trim off essentially the trunk of this tree, but it's going to trim it off on the same roundness as the rest of these circles. Now this is important. In order for this Pathfinder tool called Crop to work, I'm going to select the circle. The circle has to be on top, and then hold the Shift key down and select the tree, which is below. Now when I click on Crop on the Pathfinder panel, if you can't find the Pathfinder panel, go to the Window menu and Pathfinder. And when I click on Crop, it now makes the bottom of the tree disappear, and it makes the rest of the circle disappear, and now I'm left with just the tree. Now something to keep in mind, this is now grouped together with an invisible shape of the what was remaining of that circle. If you don't want to accidentally select that, you can go to the Object menu and ungroup, and then I'm going to click on that shape, that invisible shape, and delete it. And then to hide my guides, you can go to the View menu, Guides, and Hide Guides, or Command or Control semicolon. All right, so there you have it, a round logo. Type on a path in Pathfinder. Hope you found this useful. Make sure to subscribe and like. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Thanks.